I work at a hospital. I don't want to specify which one because of privacy reasons, but it's a big one, and one of the oldest in the country. Specifically, I work in the RMI department, short for Release of Medical Information. What we do here is provide medical records of patients to various people on request, per HIPAA law. If you aren't familiar, a patient can provide an authorization to allow someone else to look at their medical records. Most of the time, it's a family member like a spouse, sibling, or child. For the recently deceased, it's the administrator of their estate. We also got a lot of authorizations and requests from doctor offices and other practitioners as their patients come and go. Being a hospital, we're open 24/7. Since other hospitals are also open 24/7, that means that we almost always happen to have someone on staff that can respond to these requests in case of an emergency in the middle of the night. That's me, the overnight records clerk. It's a pretty simple and honestly slow job. We have an electronic medical record, EMR for short. It was installed a long time before I was hired, probably 20 years ago or longer. It's pretty great though. It's basically our own internal Google for patient records. We don't even really use paper anymore. Every patient file since we installed it has been digital and searchable by name, date of birth, or social security, etc. It really makes the job easy. It's got backups upon backups, and IT has pretty much made it so we never lose a single record. But seeing as we're an old hospital, we still have a ton of old paper records too. They're all filed in this huge room down in the basement, in the pre-Civil War part of the building. No one in my department has ever had to go down there. Requests for records that old never come in, so no one in the last 20 years probably never even had to pull one of them. In fact, I don't even think I'd ever laid eyes on the door of the old records room until the early morning hours today. I got a request for an old record from an estate lawyer's office that must have been burning the midnight oil. It was obviously non-emergent because it was concerning the medical records of a patient that appears to have died before the Korean War. That of itself is pretty unusual. The resolution of someone's estate is usually done within a year or two of their passing. I'd certainly never received or even heard of one lasting this long. However, it was accompanied with a signed court order confirming the selection of a new executor of a deceased person's estate, and it was signed by a judge, so it was the real deal. And besides, it's not like I had a lot going on. So I hopped up from my desk and walked down the hall. That part of the building is pretty quiet at night. The admin wing and the accounting offices are all empty and dark. Passing by the front desk, there's not really any signs of life. There's a few souls loitering around the cafeteria, mostly for the free coffee that tastes like garbage, but whatever. I ducked down a side hall and took the freight elevator because it's the only one that goes down to the maintenance level. It's a badge swipe elevator, so patients and family members can't use it by mistake. The maintenance level is pretty dimly lit at night. There's only about 3 ladies on staff in housekeeping, and I gave them a quick nod as I passed their break room. It's a slow night, so they're probably just as bored as me. It's kind of neat when you go from the new part of the building to the old. You can instantly tell the difference, especially in the basement. The newer gas lines stop where the old construction starts, and they curve back into the wall, taking a different route to their destination. The boring painted cinder block wall gives way to a beautiful dark wood paneling, and the floor itself changes from plain white tile to long wooden planks that make a soft thud sound with every footstep. Turning the corner, I saw a door that leads to the record room. Like the rest of the hallway, it's made of some aged wood that has been stained beautifully dark. Despite its obvious age, it's gorgeous and seemed no worse for wear than it probably did when it was first built some 200 or more years ago. The brass knob turned at a touch and the door, while heavy, swung open almost effortlessly, invitingly. I was immediately treated to a scent that was simultaneously woody, earthy, and antique, like a library filled with old books. It reminded me of what old parchment must smell like. It made my imagination picture relics of bygone days. Ahead of me, in dim electric light, stretched row after row after row of wooden shelves, packed to the brim with old folders stuffed with papers, all neatly arranged in perfect clean lines. Wow. As I passed from row to row, I was in awe of how impossibly clean this old room is. I guess maintenance really does their job well. Odd because I can't even get them to vacuum my office on a regular basis. The record I was looking for had a name that was fairly deep in the alphabet, so I had to walk a large number of rows just to find it. It was a common name too, which made it likely that I'd have to pull a lot of files to find the particular one I was looking for. Mentally, I braced myself for what might be a long night. My suspicions were soon proven correct. There must be a million James Smiths in America. It wasn't until I'd already ruled out 20 individual records that I figured out something was wrong. And that's why I'm writing this, so you can know what I know now. The first several ones I ruled out were simple. Wrong date of birth, wrong social security number, wrong date of death, the usual stuff. But as I continued onwards, I noticed little things. Impossible things. This James Smith had a birthday of March 5, 1735. That's before the hospital was even built, I thought to myself. This James Smith had a birthday of June 14, 1657. That's before this was even a country. This James Smith has a birthday of the 3rd day of September in the year of our Lord, 1461. That's before this was even the New World. I thought it was an elaborate prank for a while. I thought it was a hoax. Someone was pulling a fast one on me. I laughed nervously to the room and piled paper around me. I started looking around for cameras. "Good one," I said out loud. "Very funny." Then I came across one with a time of death declared at 13:26 hours on Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. That's ridiculous. Very, very funny. I tried to cover up the growing nervousness in my voice. Okay, fine, I thought in mental defiance. Whoever did this couldn't have possibly done it for everyone. I went to the next row and pulled a file at random. Smith Jan K. born 4/5/2022. I spun around and grabbed another file. Smith Jane Rebecca, born 3/2/1679. Not possible. I could feel my mouth going dry. I shoved the two files back into place with shaky hands and walked down to the teeth section. No one would possibly place that many files for a prank, right? Thomas Aaron B., 7/23/2023. Thomas Aaron B., 9/11/2001. Thomas Aaron B., 2/4/1312. There's a perfectly reasonable, logical explanation for this. My mind was reeling, but what? I left that row and wandered down several other intersecting rows blankly as my mind raced. Impossible dates, impossible scenarios. How is there a medical record here of someone who died very obviously some other place in some other time? It's completely logically impossible. Okay, so people from all over, from dates all over the calendar. Maybe try someone famous? I raced to the H section, listening to the strange echoing sound that my footsteps made on the wooden floor. I did a report on him when I was still in school. I own every album. I watched every documentary. I dressed like him for Halloween last year. I know as much as you possibly can know about him. There's no conceivable reason he should have a medical record here. I dashed down the long row labeled Hen and thumbed through tabs as quickly as I could until James Marshall Hendricks. Date of birth, November 27, 1942. Date of death, September 18, 1970 at St. Mary Abbot Hospital, Kensington, London, England. This should not be here. The file fell from my hands. Why is this here? Papers scattered across the floor, papers that didn't belong in this building. I could see his death certificate. I could see the doctor's signature. Impossible. On July 15, 2005, my father died in front of me of a brain aneurysm in our family home across the country. I'm certain he's never been in this building his entire life. But his file is here. The truth is sinking in. Everyone that's ever lived or is living or is ever going to live, their files are somehow and possibly in this room. Everything about their medical history, their birth, their vaccination records, their regular checkups, their illnesses, their cause of death, everything. Even if it hasn't happened yet. I've been in here for hours now. I must have looked at 10,000 files. I do not know how. It's impossible. Yet in front of my eyes, all around me, here it is, a complete record of humanity. Everyone you've ever known, met, hated, or loved. There are names in here that are in different alphabets. There are dates in here that are not on our calendar. There are places listed that I've never even heard of. Your record is somehow in here too, and so is mine. Everyone you'll ever know. All that have come before you, and all that will ever be, they're all here. This is impossible, except it's not. Only one more problem. Where's the door?
In this little shop of horrors, that's how we get down. Yeah, enter, the project's on the prairie, scary. Greet you at the gate with Bloody Marys. Blood, a rail full of blood. Back to the cemetery, get more blood. Standing on the grave, drinking blood, smoking bones. We seen a crew of ghouls running by with stolen tombstones. With hell's angels on the chase, they lost a bust of black skull. Want you embrace, they tie you up in chains and they stomp on your face. They go to purgatory and they beat the fucking case. I look around, mad.